If you're replacing the seized door lock actuators on a right-hand drive Toyota BB or a similar chassis from the same generation, you may be noticing that on the front left-hand side door, the door lock actuators do not match up with the Scion XB or other USDM Toyotas in general. All of the other doors match. It's just this particular one that's different. And the simple issue is that on the JDM models, this particular door uses a two-pin single lever actuated unit. This seems to be a very particular thing for the right-hand drive market. So here is the front lev actuator from the XB, and as you can see, uses a 6-pin connection and dual levers instead. The second lever and the extra wires provide feedback to the BCM to signal the actual position of the lock itself. Both of the front doors of the XB uses the 6-pin type, while the BB only uses 6-pin for the right side door, and then uses this 2-pin single lever type for the left door. As for comparison, this is the left rear door actuator, which is really similar in construction, but just has different input shafts. So at this point, you have about 3 options to repair your old actuator. Number 1, you can replace the motor that's inside the actuator, assuming that that's what's broken. This is the cheapest, but the most time-consuming. You actually need to carefully cut this casing open, remove the old, and then re-grease all of the old components inside, then do a reseal. There are lots of videos on YouTube already documenting this method. Second option is you can buy a rear actuator from an XB and just simply swap out this lever arm. This option is decently easy, but you do need to remove the old lever arm from the old actuator, the old front actuator, by cutting off the plastic welds and then swapping the arm. Again, there are other videos on YouTube documenting this procedure. Now, if you're like me and you've already went ahead and purchased the brand new actuator for the XB, you might be looking for a way to just, patch this in without hacking up the lock itself, nor the original harness. Lucky for you, there is a way, but in order to do this correctly, we're going to need the OEM 6-pin connector from the left-hand drive car. As a bonus, this method does help us seal out the moisture from the new lock actuator itself. So the first difficulty I ran into was actually with getting the physical pigtail itself. The local wreckers didn't have any XBs in stock, nor did they have any of the older Toyota models that would typically have this connector inside the door. So, I could order this online, but I also could not find a single part number for this specific connector. It was kind of a guessing game in terms of, maybe this connector would fit my lock actuator. I don't know. You won't really know until it arrives at your door. Ideally, I want a vehicle sitting in a yard where I can go and match up the actuator to make sure that it fits before I cut that harness off. Fortunately, I did find a alternate application which uses the same 6-pin plug. If you have a junker near you, you might be able to find one of the late 2000s Toyotas with a drive-by-wire throttle body, which you can pull the connector from. So here we have a late 2000s Toyota Yaris with the said drive-by-wire throttle body. And as you can see here, the 6-pin connector from the throttle body actually mates up to the lock cylinder actuator. This is way easier to find than the body side harness. What we're going to do next is to prepare this patch cable so that it can connect to the original harness inside the car. Now, I've done my circuit probing, and I found that the bottom 2 pins of this new actuator corresponds with 2 pins that are on the original lock actuator. So on the harness, based on this model that I got, would be the green and red wires that are in this patch cable. Full disclosure, as you can see, the two pins that I'm trying to patch to are actually quite close together. So the proper way to prepare these two ends actually would be to use some form of a low profile spade connector, the uninsulated one, so that I could get them really close together and then insulate individually so that they don't touch each other. But I do not have those on hand right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to MacGyver these insulated spade connectors so that I could patch them in and still maintain enough space for this application. Here's my finished harness. As you can see, the two prongs that I actually need, they are half-cut terminal adapters that are crimped on and individually sleeved. As for the other four, they're really not leading to anything. There will be zero electricity running through any of them, so I just sleeve them all together and heat shrink them. So now this is ready to go on the car. So back to the car here. Understanding that we're actually pinning the patch connector into the original body harness plug here, this plug specifically had just lost its water resistance feature. So what I'm going to be doing is take this harness, which is outside the vapor barrier. I'm going to bring it inside through this built-in hole right here so that I could try and protect this harness from water splashes. And then I'm going to make a hole right inside the vapor barrier here, which is going to, run the patch connector outside. Hopefully, what that does is it will protect this plug from direct water splashes and it will prevent things from shorting out.
A few moments later.
So here we have the finished patch job. As you can see, I've fed the 6-pin connector through the vapor barrier here so that I could pin it into the stock 2-pin harness here. And then I just basically adjusted the cabling a little bit so that I took out some of the slack. One thing that I did do extra here is I used some contraption of zip ties to maintain some tension here so that the pins don't pull out by themselves. Many ways to do this. Your method might work too. Just thought I would point that out so the locks don't get disconnected when you're driving. So that's the job done. Again, understanding that this is not the most efficient job. This is just something that you can do if you've already by accident purchased the XB left side door lock actuator. I just wanted to do this to showcase that yes, it is possible to still patch this in without hacking apart any components. But there are other methods to get this done if you did your research before and purchased the proper actuator that you could modify accordingly. Thanks, guys.